Hello there, Chevron employees, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Sam, and I moderate these weekly presentations. In just a second, we will be joined by two of our Chevron-focused financial advisors. Tyson Mavar and Patrick Ray are both two of our senior financial advisors, and they're going to be covering how to handle a current EOI from Chevron and how you can take advantage of that to maximize your benefits. Before they come on, though, just a couple housekeeping items for you to be aware of. First and foremost, we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by Chevron. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors, so please keep that in mind as you're listening along. Second, you can use the description box below, or you can use the links that may pop up on top of my head here. You can click right on those links and they will guide you to our calendar where you can book an appointment with one of our Chevron financial advisors, as well as following us here on YouTube. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We post tons of Chevron retirement related content weekly, and we really think you'd get some value out of it if you considered giving us a follow. And with all of that out of the way, now we're going to get started with Patrick Ray and Tyson Mavar.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. My name is Patrick Ray, and I am one of the senior advisors here with the Retirement Group and the Wealth Enhancement Group, and we appreciate your attention this afternoon. Today, we're going to be talking about many of the common questions that we get when we see people who are actively working at Chevron who either A, choose to leave the payroll on their own, or B, sometimes get asked to leave the payroll a little prematurely from their original retirement plans. And so we're going to cover a lot of information that's great to know if you're in either one of those positions. But a little bit about the Retirement Group and the Wealth Enhancement Group. We are with one of the largest RIA firms in the country. And one of our responsibilities is to help people who are in a position of working for a Fortune 100 company and help them transition into a successful retirement. And we have many tools and capabilities to be able to help folks who are in this position. And one of those things is these webinars that we do on a very regular basis. We have offices all across the country and specifically in Texas and California. And this is a good time to let people who are with Chevron know that we're doing many workshops that are related specifically to the company. And at the end of the presentation today, we're going to give you access to a QR code where you can check out some of those presentations in case those are close to your location in the event that you would like to attend one of those on an in-person basis. And so hopefully what we can do is cover some of the main and important topics that you would need to know about or want to consider when you're in a position like this. And what I'll do now is bring on my partner and one of the senior advisors here with the Retirement Group and the Wealth Enhancement Group. His name is Tyson Mavar. Tyson's going to give us our presentation today. Tyson?
Thank you, Patrick. And thank you, folks, for attending our webinar series today. My name is Tyson Mavar. I'm one of the Chevron-focused retirement advisors for the Retirement Group and Wealth Enhancement Group. We've been getting a number of calls from clients and prospective clients in the last really 2 months in preparation for an expression of interest offer to leave the payroll. So we have we're expecting Chevron's global workforce to decline by 15 to 20%. At least that's what they had announced. And offers just went out last week. So we're going to talk today, as well as, like Patrick mentioned, a number of events in the upcoming future about some of the common mistakes that we've seen people make when retiring or just leaving Chevron, and some of the important tax implications related to the LTIPs, the pension interest rate issues, some of the timing issues, and some of the big issues that we work with our clients and prospective clients to avoid creating problems in their retirement plan and essentially maximize what they walk away from the company with and minimize taxes. So today we're going to talk about first the long-term incentive program, or LTIPs for short. There's several of these. We're going to talk about how they work, the vesting schedule, as well as the tax implications, because for a lot of our highly compensated Chevron clients, this can create some tax headaches. But by understanding the rules related to these LTIPs, we can oftentimes reduce the total taxable income related to the vesting as well as the exercising of these different LTIPs. So something that they have in common, normally you're going to forfeit your LTIPs that aren't vested by the 10th of February after the year after your grant date. So you'll lose these options in almost every scenario, whether they're restricted stock units, performance shares, or stock options. Now, for those that were granted prior to the year before your retirement date, with the exception of somebody who's retiring after or leaving the payroll after February 10th, which presumably would be the case in this accelerated EOI and the regular EOI later in the year. Your vesting is a function of your years of service or total points, which is age plus years of service, as well as your age. And somebody who leaves payroll either beyond their 65th birthday or with 90 points of age of service is going to be 100% vested in all of their LTIPs. Pretty big deal for a lot of people. So that might be a consideration on whether or not to take an offer. If you're giving up a significant number of your LTIPs, maybe worth sticking around a little bit longer on payroll. Now, if you are either age 60, at least age 60, and or have at least 75 points, it's a partial vest. And it's going to be prorated. Your LTIPs will be vested as a function of how long you have had them toward the total vesting period. So for example, restricted stock units, 5-year vest. If you have 3 years out of the 5 years, those RSUs would be 60% vested. And it's going to be just a function of how long you are on payroll and how far you are from the total vesting date for all of them, not just the RSUs. So pretty big milestones there, can be really helpful and pretty valuable for meeting the points and or the age criteria for having more shares vested upon your retirement or transition out of Chevron. Now, of course, the LTIPs are administered by Morgan Stanley. Termination due to an offer like this, typically, at least in the past, has not been reason for an accelerated vesting schedule. Now that could change, but that's typically not the case. You're going to either lose the options or get a partial or full vest depending on your age and points with the company. Now the restricted stock units I mentioned earlier, those are a 5-year vest. They are taxed at ordinary income rates plus FICA taxes upon vesting. So not when granted do you pay any taxes. It's just when those RSUs vest 5 years after the grant date. And they used to be paid out as cash, but now they're paid out as shares of Chevron stock. So a consideration for selling these, depending on your tax bracket status, whether or not you want the income, the taxable income that year, as well as the concentration risk. If you have quite a bit of Chevron stock already, that might be a consideration for potentially selling those shares of stock at some point in the future, but being mindful of long-term and short-term capital gains tax rates, as well as your tax bracket the year that you're considering making that sale after those restricted stock units went out of restriction or became vested. Performance share units are only a 3-year vesting period, and the value is calculated by taking the number of performance shares, multiplying that by the 20-day Chevron stock price average, and multiplying that by the performance share multiplier, or PSM, which is going to be a function of Chevron's performance, profitability, and efficiency relative to its peers, competitors in the industry. And those also are going to be taxed at ordinary income tax rates plus FICA taxes when they vest, similar to the restricted stock units. And they're also now paid out as shares of Chevron stock, unlike how they used to be paid out as cash. Stock options. Stock options are a bit more complicated than the other two LTIPs and have more flexibility in your decision-making process, and which is why we spend a lot of time with these, because although it is a 3-year total vest, these shares are vested 33% per year for 3 years after they are granted. And most of these shares, when we're talking about stock options, are going to be the non-qualified stock options. This is by far the most stock options that employees that we run into and clients of ours have. There's going to be 4 exercise methods, which are going to be the same-day sale, sell to cover, cash exercise, and a stock swap. And each of these have their merits and might be used depending on your total concentration of Chevron stock, your current tax bracket, whether or not you have the cash to cover. A whole host of different variables might have you choosing one exercise method versus another. Now, these are also taxed at exercise at ordinary income tax rates plus FICA taxes for the value of the stock option that's exercised. So if presumably you would be making a profit, the grant price would be lower than the exercise price or the current stock price whenever you exercise the option. If there is positive value, that's going to be taxed at ordinary income plus FICA. And if you hold on to the shares, if you don't do a cashless exercise, for example, if you hold on to the shares for a period of time, you might qualify for lower taxes, long-term capital gains tax rates. And that could be a reason for holding on to these shares for an extended period of time beyond the exercise. Now, it's also important to mention that you have 10 years to exercise these options. And if you don't exercise them by the end of the 10th year, you're going to lose the value of these options. It may also make sense to exercise these options prior to the 10-year milestone. It's going to come down to taxes. You might be nice to defer the taxes a little bit longer after these shares are fully vested in 3 years. You might find a good target price, and to maximize the value that you're able to unlock out of these stock options, you might just want to lock it in versus holding on to those stock options for the entire 10-year period. But you have to also recognize that there's a component of leverage with any stock option. For example, if we were granted stock options for Chevron with a grant price of $100 per share, and let's say those shares appreciated to $150 per share, those stock options would be worth $50, the difference between the grant price and the strike price. Now, if Chevron stock went up 10%, let's just say in the next couple of weeks, which would be $165 per share from $150 per share. Now, your stock option has gone from $50 in value to $65 in value, which is an increase of 30%. So the stock price went up 10%, your options went up 30%. Same thing on the other side. If the stock price in this example went down 10%, you lost 30% of the value of your stock option. So because of that leverage that's a little more aggressive than just owning shares outright, it needs to be considered when planning to hold on to these stock options for an extended period of time. Now, we also have something called a retirement restoration plan, which the IRS calls 415 excess. And this is going to be a portion of your pension that you are not able to roll over into a retirement account and defer taxes on. The way these work is when you qualify for the retirement restoration plan originally, you're going to make an election of how you want to receive this plan. It can be taken as a lump sum or in annual installments up to 10 years. Now, you can also change your mind on the distribution schedule before starting your retirement, before being paid on this retirement restoration plan. But if you do make that change, it's going to defer the first payment for an additional 5 years. And that might be a long time to wait for this plan. Could help you on taxes potentially. And that money will stay invested in the 10-year treasury while Chevron is waiting to pay you for it in the annual installment period, or if you did change your mind and end up deferring your payment by 5 years. So you're still earning interest on that money, but taxes are a big deal on deciding the best way to take this retirement restoration plan. And this can have create the problem of quite a bit of taxable income the year that you retire or the year after you retire from Chevron. And it is paid out the first quarter of at least 1 year after your retirement. So the year after your retirement, you might get your first RRP payment. If it's paid as a lump sum, that can have the impact of increasing your tax bracket and might not be advisable. But we may also have some tax strategies that we want to bring to your attention that can reduce your taxable income either at year 1 of retirement, year 2 of retirement, or throughout the first several years of your retirement if you're in a situation where you have vesting LTIPs as well as this 415 excess or the RRP coming from your Chevron pension. Now, the Chevron benefit formula for employees that were hired prior to 2008. So this is the defined benefit formula. And there's actually several of them if you came from Gulf or Caltex or Texaco, Unical. But the Chevron retirement plan, the basic formula is going to be 1.6% of your highest average earnings times your years of service with the company, and the subtracting off the Social Security offset component. And what's interesting about the Social Security offset is that Chevron doesn't always calculate it correctly. And so we oftentimes help our clients with understanding whether or not Chevron is calculating this correctly so as to make a recommendation whether or not you should send in your statement to Chevron and potentially increase your pension benefit, whether it's a lump sum or one of the various annuity options. This has the potential benefit of increasing your pension payout. For example, one of my clients was able to increase his lump sum by close to $24,000 because I told him to send in his Social Security statement because we identified an error in Chevron's projection. So the Social Security offset component of your pension formula, it's going to be 1.3% of your projected age 65 primary Social Security benefit amount, or PIA, primary insurance amount, as they will call it on your pension modeling statement. And they're going to multiply that by your total years of service with a maximum offset of 45%. And if you do the math, that comes out to 33 and a third years of service. If you have more than 33 and a third years of service with Chevron, you're going to hit the maximum offset, which is 45% of your age 65 Social Security benefit. So for example, if you had more than 33 and a third years of service, and your projected age 65 benefit was, let's say it was $2,000 per month, well, then you would hit the maximum offset, which would be, in this case, be $900 per month being reduced from your annuity benefit from Chevron. And that might translate into several $100,000 in some cases reduced on the lump sum. Now, it only reduces service beyond age 65. So for example, if you retire prior to age 65, they're not going to be offsetting your pension for the years up until age 65. But it could still have a pretty large offset, and you could still potentially benefit quite a bit from turning in your statement. So let's talk about the issues there. And here's an example, additional example. Somebody who's $3,000 a month with only 30 years of service, they didn't quite hit the maximum offset. But in this case, it was going to reduce their monthly annuity by $1,215 per month, which again is going to be close to a couple $100,000 on your lump sum for somebody with 30 years of service. Now, when do we turn in our statement? This is something we're happy to help you with, whether or not you're a client of ours. We hope we get an opportunity to talk to you and why we think we might be a good fit for your business. But if you are not sure whether or not to turn in your statement, call us or make sure to talk to somebody who is very familiar with this process, because it's also possible you could reduce your pension benefit if Chevron incorrectly calculated your Social Security on the high end. Then you wouldn't want to turn in your statement, of course, because it's possible they could reduce your pension benefit, lump sum and annuity. So what do? We look at your SSI PIA, your age 65 PIA, which is on your pension modeling statement. We're going to run a calculation using your Social Security statement that can be found on the Social Security Administration's website. You run a projection. We modify that to calculate the age 65 benefit, which is no longer full retirement age. Most people, it's age 67. And some people are still age 66 or age 66 and change. So a conversion needs to be done to move this back to age 65. And then we compare the two. And if your age 65 Social Security, your actual benefit is lower than what Chevron is showing on your modeling statement, that's when we have an argument to turn in the statement. And we can actually project how much we think you're going to increase your annuity by, and as a result, your lump sum as well. So let us know if you need help with that. You have to turn in your statement if you choose to by the later of your benefit commencement date or 6 months after your retirement. And we work with a number of people who defer the election of their pension, whether it's to age out of penalties or to discover a more favorable lump sum interest rate environment. And there's a number of reasons you might defer the election of your pension. Just know that you have to turn in your statement. by your benefit commencement date or 6 months after your retirement, whichever is a later date, if you choose to turn in your statement. Now, of course, there's a number of ways to take the pension. The lump sum's been very popular for many years, and there's a variety of reasons to consider taking it, whether it's to have better flexibility with your death benefit, whether it's to want to invest that money and create a better income stream than the company was promising you through one of the various annuity options, whether it's just for more flexible distributions, which might help you on taxes to control your income and your taxes as a result. There's a variety of reasons you might consider the lump sum, and there's also a variety of reasons you might consider one of these annuity options. Those annuity options are the single life annuity, which is the highest payout form, but with no death benefit. You have a life and term certain annuity, where you pick the certain period of time. And this option is also a single life annuity. It's a lifetime annuity for you, the employee, but it's a lower payout because there are some potential death benefits if you pass away early on in your retirement in that certain period of time that you choose. It might be 5, 10, or 15-year extended period certain that there is a death benefit associated. And this is not a very common option in my experience, but it could be a good option for somebody maybe who has a terminal illness or an uncertain life expectancy because of a health condition or family history and so forth. And we have helped some people take this option in some cases for the best. The joint survivor annuity is pretty popular, I would say, in my experience, at least for married couples. It is going to be also a lower payout than the single life annuity because it is good for 2 lifetimes, you and presumably your spouse, but doesn't necessarily have to be a spouse. And the reduction in payout is a function of how young your spouse is, or how the age discrepancy between you and your spouse or your joint annuitant. The younger they are, the longer their life expectancy, the bigger the reduction is going to be to add them onto your lifetime pension payment. And they also have this uniform income where you can get more money in the early years of retirement. The idea being that you need more money before qualifying for Social Security. So for example, you might want more income until age 62 and not need as much income after age 62. I will say this is the least popular option in my experience because most people saved in the 401k and can use the 401k to bridge the gap, if you will, of the income that's not coming in prior to age 62 or prior to the Social Security benefit election. Lump sum, still very popular again, but it's also calculated based on changing interest rates. And we're going to go over those in just a moment. Now, I really like this slide. I'll zoom in because it goes over the payout factor depending on not only your total points, age plus service at termination, not at commencement of benefit, but at termination when you leave the company. And then on the x-axis, or excuse me, the y-axis, we have the age at annuity start date. So for example, if you left the company with at least 55 points of age and service, you'd be on the far right column. But then you could defer the election of your pension. So you might leave at age 55, but wait until age 60 to start your pension, which means you can walk away with 100% of your payout. That same person who left at 55, but took their pension right away is going to have 5 years of age penalties at 5% per year, or a 25% total discount to their pension because of these age penalties. So whether or not to actually take your pension right away is going to be a function in part of your age, in part of interest rates, because we may be in a declining interest rate environment where your pension is, at least on the lump sum side, increasing. That could be an argument to wait on the commencement of your pension. And so this is something we'll help you with if we're working together, and it becomes a monthly decision because that's how often Chevron is changing the interest rates. And I'll zoom on this slide too, because I think it's good to pay close attention to these. Whether or not you're retiring or leaving Chevron this year, it's important to keep up with these rates because they can create some good catalysts for retirement. Rates have increased in the last several years. There were some really low interest rates in 2020, 2021, the last offer many of you might remember, last EOI, very favorable lump sum interest rates. Interest rates have come up, and they did tick up just this last month in January of 2024. You can see the second segment rate, which is the interest rate we pay the most attention to, as it carries by far the most weight in the lump sum calculation. That interest rate is up it looks like 27 basis points, 0.27% since December, which is a pretty big jump from month to month. Now, the reason we have 3 months highlighted here is because Chevron actually uses the 3rd, 4th, and 5th month prior to your benefit commencement month to calculate your lump sum. So for example, right now we know what the April blended rates are, which is an average of these 3 rates for November, December, and January. And anybody who was to leave the company before April could have the opportunity to commence their benefit April 1st, or they could defer their lump sum commencement into a future month, as long as they weren't yet age 65 and had the opportunity or option to defer their pension lump sum, because age 65 is the normal retirement age. Now, in plain English, what these rates mean, every 1% increase to these rates results in roughly a 10% drop in your lump sum. And because they're using blended rates that are the average of 3 different months, every month, 1 month's going to drop out and 1 month's going to come in. And so we could see anywhere from, like what we saw when interest rates were increasing a couple years ago, we could see people losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a given year because interest rates were climbing. This could be also a reason to consider deferring the election of your pension to wait for a more favorable interest rate environment. But you're still exposed to the risk of interest rates going up on you if you wait to take your lump sum. Fortunately, because of that 3-month look back, we have a bit of a crystal ball, so we can see what direction interest rates are going and can make good timing decisions on when to take our pension as a result of this quote unquote crystal ball, or this ability to look into the future of what interest rates are doing and electing our lump sum accordingly. Now, we do have some upcoming events that we're going to be going over into greater detail on the tax strategies that we employ with Chevron and clients of ours, the net unrealized appreciation strategy, Roth conversions, some different estate planning techniques, and also go into more detail on the different pension options and issues with making the election if you do take a severance package or express interest in this offer, or if you don't voluntarily do it but your job goes away later in the year. We want to help as many people as possible prepare for that instance. So Wednesday, March 19th, we're doing an 11:30 lunch at Strato 550 next to the Chevron buildings in downtown Houston. That same night, we're doing a dinner at Fleming's in West Houston for those that can't make the lunch and hopefully don't live too far away from West Houston. We're doing a couple events in Northern California, Tuesday, March 25th, 6 p.m. at Ruth's Chris in Walnut Creek. And that following day, Wednesday, March 26th, a noon lunch at LB Steak Bishop Ranch in San Ramon. Let us know if you or somebody you know lives near one of these locations and you think has interest in coming to these. We will probably be doing more in April. We'll let you know about those if these ones don't work out for your schedule. And we'll also be doing more of these webinars going over different topics. We'll try to keep you in the loop. And here's our Chevron team in Houston. I'm one of the Chevron Focused Advisor. We have 5 offices in Houston, I believe 6 offices in the San Francisco Bay Area. So let us know if you'd like to meet us in person, if you'd like to set up a web meeting, if you want to just go over some issues on the phone. We have several complimentary reports that we offer to do for Chevron employees, whether or not you're a client. The cash flow analysis, I would say, is probably the most valuable of these reports. So let us know if you have interest in having us run your numbers, or if you just want to chat on the phone or get on a web meeting, or maybe meet in person at one of the locations, or even at your home if you don't live too far from the Houston or San Ramon areas. Just let us know. We're here to help folks. We're certainly interested in earning your business, but more importantly, we're interested in maintaining a good reputation among the Chevron community, as we have had one for a number of years now. And a statistic I bring up at all my seminars, 74% of Americans over the age of 50 don't have a written plan for retirement. Don't be part of the statistics, folks. There's no reason not to do this, given a number of companies, including ours, are happy to do this for you on a complimentary basis. And in doing so, we'll talk to you about our value proposition, the services that we offer, the cost of our services, and why we think we might be a good fit for your business. If you'd like to schedule a meeting with us, you can go to our LinkedIn page. Here's a QR code. There's also some great content on there. And then if you'd like to meet with myself or one of my colleagues, you can email us at info@theretirementgroup.com. You could call us at 800-900-5867, or you can take a picture of this QR code. It'll get you onto the calendar, and one of us will follow up with you to hopefully help you out in whatever way that we can. And the best way, I believe, to do that is have us run a cash flow analysis, and we'll give you the best advice that we have on whether or not you need to work after you leave Chevron, what type of investments you ought to be considering after you leave the company, the tax and distribution strategy that's going to allow your money to last as long as possible, and some of the other Chevron specific strategies that we've worked for a number of years with people in a very similar situation as yourself. So with that, we're going to wrap it up today. Thanks so much for the time, everybody. You know what? We do have a couple more minutes, Patrick, if you had any questions come up.
Yeah, Tyson, let's get into a couple of questions before we let these folks go for the afternoon. First question is, are you able to help me calculate the Social Security offset as well as my age 65 Social Security benefit? Speak to that for just a second.
100%. Yes. We could do it pretty easily. We do it all the time because we have a number of clients that retire from Chevron. So absolutely, just let us know. We'll tell you where to go. We'll help you gather the information, and then we'll help you with the assessment, and also give you a projection on how much we think it'll be worth to you, negative or positive, right? And if it's negative, we're going to recommend not sending in that statement, of course.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe we can speak a little bit about this, Tyson. I know you talked a couple of minutes on the details of potential reasons why you may want to consider deferring your pension. But one of the questions is, how long can I defer my pension, and what would I be considering if I choose to do so?
Yeah, so the rule is that you age 65 is the normal retirement age, so you cannot defer your benefit commencement beyond age 65. If you leave prior to 65, you can defer it as late as age 65. Now, you have to be considerate, though, of the opportunity cost of leaving the money in the plan. And so, for example, if you're planning to take the lump sum, what rate of interest do you believe you could earn on that money? And that's the cost of leaving it in the plan. So if interest rates are flat and you're gaining 5% because you're aging out of the penalties, but you believe you could easily beat 5% per year on average in an investment account like an IRA, then you might consider taking your pension out even before those age penalties have been satisfied. And then, of course, the interest rates we talked about, if interest rates are increasing, your lump sum is going to be losing value. So you probably want to get it out pretty quick, not only to reinvest it, but avoid losses associated with interest rate hikes. And on the other hand, if interest rates are falling, that could be an argument to leave the pension alone until they flatten out or start going back up. So you get effectively a guarantee, guaranteed by Chevron, of increases to your lump sum.
Yeah. Okay, a lot of stuff we covered, right? It's amazing how detailed all the different issues that our Chevron people have to deal with as compared to some of the other companies that we help people retire from. So with that, we're going to let you go for the afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found some value in what we had to talk to you about today. And if you hadn't already, take a look at the landing spots, because the QR code that we presented shows you where and when you can sign up for some of these live workshops in the event that they're happening in your area and you wish to attend in person. So with that, we'll let you go for the afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. And until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you, folks.